Now, welcome. Welcome to episode 15 of I Just Got My Kid to Sleep. Welcome, sleepers. This is episode 15, season 1, episode 15. Did you even know we were doing seasons? I didn't know. I just decided right now. This is season 1 of episode 15 of season 1 of I Just Got My Kid to Sleep. And boy, do we have a show for you. Do we have a podcast for you? Yes. Do we have an episode for you? Yes. Do we have a show for you? I just said we did. So we do. I really appreciate you listening right now, whether wherever you are. I could list all of the things you could be doing right now. Did you know that? And that could be the whole podcast is me being like, whether you're doing dishes, whether you're reading a book. You're probably not going to read a book while you listen to it. Can you read books while you listen to stuff? I can't. That's the opening, the big opening. I don't like listening to things while I read. I like the idea of it, and I can do it if it's like at a restaurant or a Starbucks or like something like that. But I like to just, when you're reading, you're reading. Maybe it's a male thing. I heard men have trouble doing two things at once. Or we have a good excuse for not listening to the people in our lives who are talking while we're doing another thing. Listen, I'm a man. My brain can't handle doing all this stuff. That's a good point. It could be that. It could be this. I just got my kid to sleep. What a day. What a day. He was tired. You know, like, that's what's so interesting about being a parent when you're trying to get your kid to sleep, because like you realize how great their life is when you're trying to get your kid to sleep. That's what I think I've realized. That, like, my child was so tired, like he was doing the yawns on the way back home tonight. We went to this indoor playground, which if you don't, I never knew what an indoor playground was. I don't know if they just started when Jack was kind of growing up. I think basically it's like a Chuck E. Cheese without the video games, but sometimes there's video games. It's like a place where the kid, at first, when I first brought Jack to an indoor playground, he was definitely 3, maybe late 2s, but I think it was 3. And I was like, this would be good when it's like rainy, or in the winter when it gets dark early. And he was napping at the time, so we'd be like, need something to do after our nap that was very active, but you can't really go to the park at dark. You can't go to the park at dark. Is that a good new Dr. Seuss child's book? Do you want him to go to the park at dark? There could be a shark at the park at dark. Shark at the park. So I'm going to write that down so I remember, because that just reminded me of something else. I might have already talked about that, though. Not today. You know everything that I've said today. We're only a couple minutes. We're only 3. I have a timer. I could tell you exactly how long, but I don't want to put you in the mood of like, how long have we been listening for? You ever do that? You ever watch something for entertainment and have it clocked? It kind of ruins it. Like, I'll record sports because I like sports a lot, and I'll stay away from the score. You can hide the score. Man, technology today. It used to be, well, you didn't know this. There was no internet. It used to be there were no sports. That's what I was getting at. No, it used to be you couldn't hide the score, but now you can hide the score. And when I pull it up, I watch the game, and I like doing that. And that's what I would do. But the only thing I don't like, if you're recording it, I can check how long the recording is, and then I can predict kind of how the game's going to end, where it is, like if it's football, like one team has the ball, you get it. There's no reason for me to go into my insane, this is supposed to be fun. I'm watching this for fun. Why am I figuring out the ending before I see it based off of some strange prediction time-wise? Like if a basketball game is 2.5 hours, I feel like whoever's winning in the third quarter, it's over. Because if it went back and forth, there'd be timeouts. It'd be, and it's making it less fun in a way. Anyway, indoor playgrounds. I don't know. They never exist. I never got brought to one as a child. When I was a kid, I was never brought to an indoor playground ever. All of our we didn't even really get to go to the playground as a kid. We had a backyard, and that was nice. I guess that was its own thing. We had a backyard. There was a woods. My parents let us go play in the woods, which I know that's normal, but it is like there's ticks. You know, my mom would be like, watch out for ticks. She didn't say watch out for ticks. I should give my mom more credit, but she did do say something like that, where it's like, well, how? You ever have someone say something like that, like be careful of that? Well, I think moms do that. I think moms feel like they just have to say stuff for themselves to feel better, and you're like, well, how? You know, like how? Like I remember I I went for a run at night. I go for runs at night sometime. That's just what my life is like. Not with my child in the house and I'm the only adult. I don't go anywhere. I have to sneeze. But at my older age, it takes a couple. You know what's that? I'm gonna keep talking. Darn it. Oh man. I hope your headphones were not turned on. It takes me a little longer to get the sneeze out than it used to. And I tried to push through. To keep the podcast going. So I think parents do a thing, moms, where they're like, here's a scary thing. Well, I got to share it with people. Because if they don't know about it, then what are we doing? You know, they could have this thing happen to them, and then they're just done. They're cooked. And I could have told, like, I might have talked about before, my mom's really afraid. Not afraid, but she doesn't want my son to get kidnapped. And I'm on board with that. I don't want him to get kidnapped either. That would be the worst. And his mom doesn't want him to get kidnapped either. But I don't bring it up to Jack because I feel like that's not his worry. But his mom brought it up to Jack. And now apparently whenever Jack sees people, he'll be like, are they going to kidnap me? Are they going to kidnap me? Because he doesn't know that that's not polite to say. Even if the person is going to kidnap you, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. Wait till they put you in the car. Like, oh, I should have looked out for this. I don't want anybody to get I think we should ban kidnapping. That's what I think. If I had my way, I would ban kidnapping forever if I could, because it's not fair. I don't know. I feel like it's a mom. Like my mom, I was visiting when my son was a baby, and my mom was which I did look up. Because I was like, maybe I'm being a little too loose with all this. Because when your child is born, you're not sleeping as much, and maybe you're like subconsciously just letting your guard down, just because like maybe if they kidnap him, they'll watch him while I can sleep, and then they'll bring him back because they're the nice kidnapper, you know, the nice baby sitter kidnapper. They're like, I'm gonna steal this baby just for a few hours. You guys relax. No, that never happens. I don't think. Maybe family. That's what I looked up. I looked up because I was worried. I was like, maybe this is a thing. Maybe I should take more seriously. And the majority of kidnappings that happen in this country, the child abductions, are done by people the child is related to, by a person the child is related to. So it's kind of like my mom being like, be careful of kidnap. I'm going to take your kid. I know she's not, but I kind of feel like it's fun for me to imagine her being like, I'm going to take you. You better watch out. Like it's a different tone than the way she would say it. She would say like, I don't want your kid to be kidnapped. And I'm like, but it'd be funny, like, you better watch that kid. You better watch that kid. She would worry. She watched an episode of Blue Bloods, which I've talked about this on stage, so maybe that's why I'm thinking I talked about it already. But there was an episode where at the beginning of the episode of Blue Bloods, my mom pulled me aside. I was visiting them. She had a DVR'd, and she pulled up right away, which, by the way, is already a sign that she is prepared, because the technology to pull that up wasn't something they knew. You know, I kind of grew up with DVRs as an adult for sure, and they didn't. So they're figuring it out, but they're like, my mom's like, it's so important. She like got it up, turned on this episode of Blue Bloods where a kid is and bear with me if I've gone. I don't think I. Which, by the way, I appreciate everybody listening. If you are listening, this is the first episode you listen to. Thank you. I would keep going forward. Go for yeah. You can go back if you want, but like a lot of people, it seems like listen to the first one and you're like, well, this was the first. Yeah, it was the first, but it's not like I knew what I'm doing right now. I have neighbors that moved in below. I don't know if they know a podcast, but they haven't said anything. I don't think I'm very loud, right? I don't think it's very loud. And yeah. So anyway, the story that some of you may have heard. My mom pulled me aside, and there's an episode of Blue Bloods where the kid is the mom's ordering food, and it's New York already, which is like, I don't know, in a city where you can, a city like LA has a downtown, but I feel like I can see the people. I keep a head on a swivel. Who's wandering into my viewpoint? But they're in this like busy restaurant. She's ordering food and on her phone, and the kid's just looking around, and there's some guy out of the corner of his eye that has a stuffed animal, which, now that I say it out loud, Jack loves stuff. I probably shouldn't give out his secrets to the public, but he loves stuffed animals. Like, and if someone was like, "Hey," he's pretty smart, and also he gets stuffed animals from his parent. Like, that's one benefit of spoiling your kids, is that if someone pulls up in a van and like, you want some candy, like my I'm going to see my dad. Like, what are you talking about? We have candy for breakfast. Get out of here. Like, that's not why I do candy for breakfast. We didn't do candy for breakfast. He requested candy around the time we were eating our first meal. And I try to feel like, you ever do something and you're not necessarily good at it, but you're like, maybe I'm not bad at it. Maybe I'm just different at it. Maybe I'm just revolutionary at it. And then the whole thing plays out and you're like, no, I think I'm just bad at it. I think that's what it's like with parenting. Like, I think I'm getting the thing right about parenting, where it's like, spend time with your kid. Like, that's what they say. The most important thing is your time. Your kid doesn't want the toy, the whatever, he just wants time with you. Yeah, he's got that. And I'm there for that. But I'm also going to give him stuff. And I'm not doing it because if a kidnapper comes up to him, rolls up to him with a stuffy, he's going to be like, my dad, we're going to the indoor playground. They have stuffies there. Get out of here, strange man. Which indoor playground are you taking me? Are you going to find a new one? Like, that's the benefit of getting your kid stuff, is they're not going to be like, I never get candy. I'm getting in that van. No. He's like, I got candy. It's on a lower shelf, so I know I put my kid's candy on a low shelf. It's still Halloween candy. It's some Easter mixed in, and he hasn't eaten any of it, really. He is 5, but the dentist says his teeth are healthy. I think maybe when it's older there's something, but he kind of, I use this as an excuse to say yes. I'm thinking things and then only saying the things that I think I need to say, but I might need to say more. I think that I think he's eating a healthy amount of candy, because it's in a place where he knows it is, and it's not like something that he doesn't ever get. And when he asks for it, I say yes sometimes. And I think part of it's because I grew up in the 90s where, and I don't remember being 5, I guess. And maybe when you're older, it's not a big deal, but my parents were kind of strict with stuff, but not like kid stuff, like candy and video games. And we went and played outside a lot, but it was never like forced, really. Anyway, the kid in the show sees a strange man holding a stuffed animal and like waving it like this. And I don't know. You feel like a kid would know where stuffed animals come from. Like, let's judge that parenting life first off, that this kid is being ignored by the mother who's on her phone, which also, by the way, if I'm ever in like a restaurant store situation, my kid's first question is the phone. So if I have my phone on, I'd be like, Dad, that's mine now, right? You need me to be preoccupied. This is what we do. And the kid in the show is just wandering around like she doesn't even know what the phone is, like looking around, sees a strange man in the corner waving a stuffed animal. If you're just tuning in, like it's a radio show, you fast forward. I'm talking about Blue Bloods episode. This isn't real life. My mom showed it to me because she thought it was a good example of real life. and the kid run towards the stuffed animal, and I think she gets it. I think he gives it to her, but he also steals her. So that's rough because if there's one thing I know about kids, and it's not just Mike, I'm not giving anything away here, is that they want to be around their parents. And if she knew that you were gonna steal her and not let her see her mom, I'm pretty sure she'd be like, I don't. I'll ask my mom if she can give me a stuffed animal so I don't get stolen. So she's screaming, and the guy like puts her in the van, and then a blue bloods police officer is in the restaurant and ends up like just running out and chasing a van. Like the guy has a van, an automobile, and I'm not messing with the logic of blue bloods here. I like a superhero police officer for sure. But it is like the first 5 minutes, the guy chases down a van, finds a shortcut, jumps in front of the van, pulls out the gun, and the guy has to like give up the kid. And they never tell you whether the kid got to keep the stuffed animal. That wasn't addressed in the part that my mom showed me. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like she should have the option at least. Like she might not want the stuffed animal anymore because she's like, well, this is associated with a bad memory. But also she might be like, I'm going to save you from that bad kidnapping man. And I'm not going to let him give that to some other kid who's going to be stolen. Anyway, my mom showed me the beginning of Blue Bloods where a kid almost gets kidnapped. And she's like, see? She paused it. Not with her finger. It was the remote. She paused it and she was like, Michael, see? That's how fast it could happen. That is how fast it could happen. Because she was worried that I would let Jack roam around the city of Los Angeles from a distance and then be surprised that he was taken. That's what her thought process was in a way, which is not true, but it is always good to be reminded. But it is like, so I looked it up after that. I was like, okay, how often are kids being taken? And it's all about the family are taking the kid. And I think it has some more to do with like one person has custody and the other person takes the kid, and that's kidnapping. I feel like they should call that something else because I feel like that's watering down the numbers a little bit. Like if they're with the parent that takes care of them sometimes and they're good at it, but they can call it kidnapping because they're not supposed to have custody at that point. I don't think like when Jack began living in separate places, it was his choice. His mother and I love each other very much, but he wanted us apart. Is that news for people? I think that'd be really interesting if that was ever the case, or the parents like the kid doesn't like it that we're together. So what are we gonna do? We gotta pay 2 rents. So I don't remember what else. Oh yeah, one psychologist therapist told us that you have to get permission from the other person, even if you're married, to take your kid out of town. Otherwise, it's considered kidnapping or something like that. And I think they should call it something else. Like kidnapping's when someone steals your kid and they want to take them forever for some reason because they want to be a parent but don't want to go. They just want the kid now. Which, if there's any potential kidnappers listening, like that's not the ideal situation. You want to grow and you want to ease into the situation. You don't want a 5-year-old or stuff. You want to know all the steps because everything you do gets you ready for the next thing. So if anything, steal a babe. No, don't steal any kids ever. It's inappropriate of me to say, Michael. I do think that I have thought about kids being stolen more as a parent than I ever have because I don't want it to happen. And also I don't want people to think, I used to think when my son and I would go out in public, like one time we went for a walk. I do an email list every 2 weeks, and if you want more that you can't listen to read, you can sign up for that email list because I talked about this recently. I talked about how when Jack was really young, we'd go for walks every morning. It was more of carry. It was a me walk, him being carried until he could walk, and then he would still be carried because he didn't want to be, he didn't want, which at the time I was pretty frustrated with because I'm like, you can walk. The whole point of this is to get you tired so you take a nap and I can sleep. That's the selfish motive of the walk. It's like, let's get the sleep cycle going so you can get that going and then get the nap. It's for your own health, but mine too. Mine. because I'm a dad. A lot of parents um, do daycare and nannies, and or they probably don't do and, probably do or they have like someone who stays at home the whole time. And my specific situation is probably more unique than I ever thought it was. But my specific situation is partially. No, I think we would have done it this way no matter what. When we had our child, we wanted someone to be home with him all the time. I preferred till 18, but at least the first year, we didn't want someone to have to go to work, which is a blessing, a privilege that we had. That one of us was able to work and the other one was not working. But so the other person could stay. And then it turned to a thing when we both were working that whenever I was off the road, I would just be the dad, which was like half the time. And then the other half the time he would go to like a preschool or a daycare. And so it was kind of interesting thing because he would, which I really liked, he got both worlds. He got the world of like, this is what it's like when a parent's working and you have to go to this place. And this is what it's like when the parent is just gets to be with you all the time. And the only bad part about that is like I always was the one that that was with him all the time when I was home, which is never bad from the relationship part, but from like the it was constantly a work parent loop, and I like it because I'm in it and I like it and it's very happy, but I have so much laundry to fold, and maybe everybody does, and I have so many things to get rid of. Like, nobody told me this. Okay, this is where we're really getting into the podcast. Nobody told me when I became a parent. If when I was in high school, and they were talking about why you should wait till you're in a stable marriage to have children to the best of your powers. I'm Catholic, very naturally in your powers. Catholics have superpowers. They know how to anyways. And they would have said, hey, at age 5 and 4, he's going to have toys from like 1, 2, and 3, probably more closer to 3 and 4 and 5 that family members have purchased and the other parent has tried to like pass on to you because they don't want to throw away. And those are just going to be in your house. And then you get to decide which ones stay in his life and which ones you just get rid of forever. I would have been like, I don't want to do that until I have a full house where I can put it in the basement. Because that's what I got to do. I got to kill his friends. That's a dark way to put it. But he has stuffed animals and he has toys that I need to eliminate from our existence. And I don't know if I'm up for it. My apartment is slowly closing in around me with kid things and unfolded laundry. That's what my life is currently. I don't know if it's something I haven't talked about a lot because I want to keep being my kid's dad. And I know that people have messy houses, whatever. But this is like, it's not, maybe I'm painting too dark of a picture, but it is like, there's a lot. And if I was living by myself, I'd be like, I'm going to take every free moment to do this. Like when I was not a dad, I would have days where I could clean my apartment. I could organize, I get rid of stuff, and I wouldn't clean my apartment. I would go do something more fun. Now, when and if I ever have that free time, the only thing I can think of that is any sort of joy or fun is cleaning and organizing my apartment. That's the only thing that will bring me pure. I mean, I'm not positive, but I can find joy anywhere. And I want to be like a well-rounded person with other interests and activities and friends and, but, and you got to, meet people and whatnot. But like, all I want to do is just stay here. I want to like stay here for the take of 7 days and but I can't. I don't. Unless he helps, which he could. He used to help. And maybe he's going to have to. All of July, I'm going to be home a lot. And I think it's easy when you leave every 4 days to be like, or every 3 days to be like, oh, we'll get to that. But maybe in July we'll be like, yeah, sorry, buddy. We're gonna go through these toys, and we're gonna kill your friends. We're gonna kill all your friends. I think being a parent made me darker too, because you're exposed to all this like lighthearted child, and you're like, well, this is how it really is. He's very wonderful. I had a great Father's Day. Can you tell? It's a great emotional Father's Day. Father's Day weekend was emotional and great. Anyways, indoor playgrounds. We didn't have when I was a kid, but I brought him to one when he was 3, thinking like, okay, this will be good for bad weather or whatever. But then you don't realize, oh, they're gonna like something like this, and they're gonna want it every day, forever. And there'll be some where it's cheaper to just buy a thing and you can come whenever you want for free. And then there's gonna be other times where you're like, well, and I weighed it in my head. I'm like, he wants to go there. I could say we could not do that, but then we go back to the apartment and he'll want to like stay inside and play or play video games or something. And I'm just like, at least this way he's being active. And sometimes it's like nice for me if I'm super tired to like have something active to do, because then I get to play too. All the ones we go to, the parents can go down the slides. That's my rule. If I'm going to an indoor playground, I get to go down the slide. I don't say that, but if I observe and there's looks and it's weird, we're not going to be a repeat customer. On the walls everywhere, it says you must, if your child is playing, you must watch. You have to watch your child. You have to supervise. And I'm the kind of parent that supervises very close up. And sometimes I'm hiding in a game of hide and seek, and that's just the way it is. Yeah. I don't know how people remember what they talked about on a podcast, or maybe you just put so much stuff out there that it all sort of is different. Anyway, my mom was worried that my son was going to get kidnapped, and she was like, "You just have to be careful because this could happen." And I'm just like, "What are you supposed to say that? Like, okay, so he could get kidnapped. Well, how do I make like, I'm never going to tie him to, like, if someone really wants to do a crime, they're going to at least do it a little bit, Maybe that's sad to think about. But we're all out there, we're not like Jason Bourne. If someone wants, that would suck. Why would I even put that out there? Anyways, I wrote down shark from earlier, but I forget what that was. Yeah. Jack and I went to a baseball game a couple weeks ago, which was really fun. We went to the Dodgers Rockies game, and I was excited because I love baseball. But like I was saying earlier, I'm a parent that's around my son all the time. When I'm not on the road, I'm here. I only get like a babysitter if I have to go to a show, or like today I took him to like a preschool because I had like a couple phone calls, and he was in preschool for academics during the school year. Academics, I don't know. It'll be in kindergarten, but I like the all day. I like the time, and if there's like a social thing he can do, I want him to go do that. But with him, but I like being there all the time. And so my dream was like, well, maybe he'll like some of the stuff I like, because then that'll be extra fun, because then I'll get to do things with him and I'll get to do the thing I liked. And so a couple years ago, 2 years ago, we went to a baseball game, and he wasn't a big fan. I mean, I don't know what like 3-year-olds are, but we mostly played on the playgrounds, which shout out to Dodger Stadium. A lot of stadiums don't have that. I didn't realize they have like multiple playgrounds around the field. We would watch the game, and then we'd walk to the next one and watch the game, walk to the next one. And it was like a day game, so there were a lot of parents doing that, and you would just make eye contact with the parent who also wanted to just go watch the game, and it felt like this. That's the best part of it, being a parent. One of the best parts is like being able to complain about something that's awesome. I just messed up drinking that water. This cup is so big, but I love it because it's from a baseball game. This is am I allowed to show logos? I don't think so. That's a White Sox. So we would like complain in our minds to each other about having to not be able to watch the whole game with our kid. And I always felt like when I can, that'll be awesome. But I did it this time, and I missed the time before, because the time before we we watched a little bit of the game that we did play, and I just felt like that was a good compromise. We left a little early, but it was once the Dodgers were gonna win, like the game was over almost, and it felt like a good compromise of like what the child would like to have happen and what I wanted to get out of it. Because I feel like, they say that you're going to know. I just heard a quote recently about how you're going to know your kid longer as an adult than you will as, I think I read that quote on Instagram. Fact check myself there. I didn't hear the quote. I read it. So if you were like, Michael, I don't think you heard that, you probably read it. That's the case. I definitely read that quote about how you're going to know your child as an adult longer than you ever did as a kid. And at first I was like, not me. I'm going to know my kids. And then I was like, oh, that's actually a good thing, because then you're not dead. And old and dead. And so, man, I'm trying to think about what it would be like to listen to this. And I usually listen to them afterwards, but as a person and not the person that did it, because we talked about kidnapping, death. I mean, it's just a jolly day. I had a thing today where I had a couple meetings. I never do meetings. I never have meetings. I go on road. I do shows. But today I've been posting a lot on social media, started the podcast, and I'm like, I think there has to be a way to get people to watch and listen to more of the stuff I'm doing in a way that allows them to come see my shows if they want to. And so I had some meetings, and it was just like, I was very appreciative of the people and their time. But we live in an era right now as comedians where, and maybe we always kind of did, but it's just more clear now, that if you can invest some money in some help, or you just learn it yourself, I guess. But for my situation currently, the meetings I had, they're like, if you pay us this, then we can help you, not like give followers or anything, but just like help you with your content so people can get to it more accessibly. The people that might want to watch it get to watch it, and then come to your shows. And it just got a little sad. I think I got a little sad because I just believe in magic. And I just believe that if I put something out that I really like the way I want to do it, then it'll happen. And I still do believe that. But I think that was just weighing on me, which is why I'm talking about death. Thanks for listening, everybody. I know this podcast is supposed to be about my kid who just went to sleep. Not about him, but about that moment. And it's really for you. But that moment right there was more for me. Just getting that out, I don't really talk to a therapist anymore. So it's nice to have any therapist listening. So I liked going to a baseball game with Jack when he was 3 more than when he was 5, because when he was 3, we did all the kid stuff and we left a little. I like staying there for the whole game. Like, I'm there by myself. I've been to games by myself, not in LA, but in life or with friends. I'll stay to the end no matter what. But with a kid, I feel like it's weird for a kid to sit there for 3 hours. I feel like that's just a long time for a 5-year-old. And we went this time, and he did sit there, and it was because of the ice cream and then the icy he got afterwards. And I didn't plan on that. I don't think it was necessarily good for anybody. Really, it wasn't like, he doesn't do that every day. He doesn't have all that stuff every day, any of it all every day. But on that day, he wanted ice cream. I was like, sure. And then we got popcorn, because that's corn. That's a vegetable, And then he loves ices more than anything in the world. And I knew it was like the 6th inning. So what are we going to do? I'm going to say no to this and maybe leave or have a meltdown or whatever. And I went the icy route. I don't think I'm ever going to do that again, which is extra hard. That's how I parent. The easy way is to get ahead of it and be like, hey, buddy, we just had ice cream. So I'm predicting that if we do another huge sweet that is priced pretty high because it's big, and you eat all of it, the ending's not going to be something we both like. But I just sort of be like, well, we haven't done that before. We haven't done ice cream and an icy. Let's see what happens. And I get to watch the game. And so we did that. We did ice cream and an icy. Is this really good for the podcast? What is that? What everyone was wondering, like, well, what did Jack eat at the baseball game? What was the whole menu like, Michael? Please walk us through. The whole point is, I felt like I drugged my kid with sugar so I could watch a game, and it felt bad. it wasn't on purpose thing. He was asking for it, but it was a little bit, it's my job, to regulate that stuff. And that's a lot for an adult. And, and, and I did. And I think like, if I really was like, maybe his body wants ice cream. And then I was like, oh, maybe the icy. But I think I literally was like watching the game, be like, that's what you want? Let's do. Like, I didn't spend. My main priority focus was like, I spent money on these tickets. I want to watch the game, and with my kid, which was fun. I just wish I could have done it without having to get him sugared up. And I don't know if I ever will. Because that's what I was saying about being hard. Like, a lot of parents will get ahead of that and be like, we're just doing one thing. And then the kid goes through it, and then he's usually fine. Kids are usually fine. Like, today, we got home and he wanted to play video games. I was like, it's too late. We're not doing that. And he freaked out. And then it was fine. And I think, like, if I had, gone away from that day, but the next time we go to a game, he's going to want both again. And I'll be like, I'll say yes to the first one, and then he'll ask for the second one. I'll be like, I think we're just gonna watch the game now, and you want like a hot dog or something? We can do that, and he's gonna, I've set up the expectation, which in a way I think is better for him, because I've heard that if your kids go through stuff like that, then they'll be able to handle it better as an adult. So while getting ahead of it as a parent and like limiting and letting them know the boundaries is a good way to establish the parental-child relationship in the moment, one way to make them a stronger human is to really build up their expectation by saying yes to too many things and all of a sudden shutting it down and just seeing what happens. And that's where I land right now is I don't always believe that I know what is right until I'm like, that's definitely not good. And then he kind of freaks out because I've gone along with more than his mom would or other people or he believes. I think sometimes he asks for something. He's literally asked for food or like something at a store, and I've been like, no, and then I'll think about it. I'm like, yeah, you can do that. And he'll be like, why did you let me do that? And I don't have a good reason. The only thing I can think of to say, which I don't, is like, don't question it, just enjoy it, So maybe the next baseball game, I'll see what happens. But what else? Here's some stuff. And this is where Michael talks about the news stories that he didn't really have time to read because he's a dad, but heard like a little snippet and formed an opinion. That's the music that goes along with this segment. So Tom Brady got inducted in the Patriots Hall of Fame, and which, I don't know, like, he definitely should be in it, but it seems like he should have been in it when he was still playing for the Buccaneers. Like, why did they wait till, like, there's no year limit. He should just be in it. Like, the second he went to there, like, well, you're in our Hall of Fame now. Because that's just, like, it seemed weird. Because, of course, he, especially since he left and won one without them, he was your friend. The other Patriots that are in the Patriots Hall of Fame, they should now be in the Tom Brady Hall. They should call the New England Patriots Hall of Fame the Tom Brady Hall of Fame. And so anybody that gets in there gets to like live in this Tom Brady. They're like, their memories get to live in this place that's honor Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the franchise. So like being like, you're in our Hall of Fame. It's just kind of like, well, he graced you with his presence. It kind of, what would that be like? What would a metaphor for that be like off the top of my head? I don't know. I really don't. But I think there's something out there. And I think if you come to a show, it might show up. Or I'll think of it real quick. It's like Tom, you guys get it. Tom is bigger than the franchise, in my opinion. And maybe everybody's. And not really. Of course, he needs a defense. He needs all these players. But he's done something nobody else has done. And he did it for a long time. And now the organization is like, well, we're going to honor you. And it's just hard. I think Tom Brady is the only person in that situation that could have gone on stage and be like, thank you, but I think I honored you by being here for so long. Like, I'll be in your Hall of Fame, but how about I start one, and then I'll let you as a team be in my Hall of Fame. Because he was so good. But instead of saying something awesome like that, he went on this rant about how parents need to let kids play football because it's hard and life is hard. And this is the part of the show where I thought of the segment of like, oh, I listened to something on the news. I didn't follow up. I didn't listen to the whole speech. I didn't listen to other people talk about the speech. I just saw this clip of Tom Brady saying that kids should play football because life is hard. And I just don't think that when you look at Tom Brady, who's was married to a model, very handsome man, and paid millions of dollars, and won more Super Bowls than anybody's ever won, more, most prolific, greatest of all time. I don't want to hear him talk about how life is hard, because I get it. Like, I would rather have, someone who looks the part be like, life is hard, because I feel like the person who's talking about life, and I get the point of view of like kids should play football. It's it's good, but I don't think that's his angle. I don't think if I was, which he's obviously not listened to the best of people with the whole roast thing and thing. But like Tom Brady saying life is hard. I mean, that's another really good. I got like a couple metaphors to fill in here. I don't even want. I'm not tired, but I feel like a little worn down because I know I'm going on the road soon, which is, but for a while. And so I'm trying to spend time with my kid. And I'm adjusting to the summer schedule. Tom Brady talking about how life is hard. It's not the person I want to see be life is hard. Like, I want to hear Tom Brady talk about how life is awesome, because he looks like life is awesome. And I get it that I understand that it's hard work to like work out and eat right and play and learn all the stuff. But here's the thing, everybody. I'm going to lean in for this one. Here's the thing. This is also hard, like I got to set up this thing. I got to do this in front of here. Like, I could describe it in a way like life is hard. You do a podcast. You got to get your kid to sleep. And then that's why everybody should do a podcast, because you got to get your kid to sleep. Otherwise, they'll be on it and it won't be good. So then you name it Your Kid to Sleep. And then I just got my kids. And then you got to set it up. And then you got to think about the sound and the lights. And you're funding it yourself. But that's fine. Money's not big. But like, it's so hard. And then you got to upload. It. And then you got to have the internet watch it. And you got to tell people to watch. It's so hard. And life is hard. That's why everybody should do a podcast. And it's just like, it's stupid fun. It's stupid fun. Comedy in general is the stupidest, most fun job that I've ever had. I think like football, I could be wrong. I would like to think it's also super fun. And the working out, for sure, a pain. But you also have like, I would love to go to the gym as much as they do. For a job, like, I get it. It's hard. But I don't. And Tom Brady's inspirational and whatever, and he should tell people to play football because it's hard. I think people should play football because it's fun. And it's the only time in your life that you can do something like that is fun. You get to play on a team. That would be my Tom Brady speech. And that is fun. And you get to score a touchdown, maybe, or you get to help someone score a touchdown or stop someone from scoring a touchdown. And that is fun. And you get to tackle, you get to hit people legally. You get to tackle people, and not in a mean way. This is just part of the game. We've gamified physical contact. Where else does that happen? And you want it to be safe and whatever, but like and I know people like flag football, but flag football, I don't know. Maybe it's good for kids, but football is a very unique way to gamify physical contact in a way that, I played and I don't have any lasting injuries. I played in high school. That's the thing. Most of the kids are going to be done by high school. Most kids won't even get to high school to play it. Like, I think the only real issues happen when you're playing it professionally and in college. That's what I would have said. So get your kid out there, and then when they start to get really good, just be like, hey man, I know you love this, but let's think about it. And maybe that's not fair. I believe in loving something or someone, regardless of whether you can't in the future. I think a sport is like that. But just hearing Tom talk about how life is hard and that's why kids need to play football, it just seems like it perpetuates this form of parenting that definitely was used on me, and I don't think it led to the best of qualities long term. I think short term it gets you through the hard moments because you're like, when it's hard, you're like, well, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. But I think in the long term, you realize that your attitude towards the situation can make a situation, whether it's hard or not hard, be the be be very satisfying. And but I'm not Tom, and also he's a quarterback. He's been hit in the head for sure, and maybe we shouldn't pick apart his sentences. So whenever I want to criticize Tom, I should just pull up a video of him throwing that ball. With Tampa, I feel like with New England, they never really opened it up. Again, when they had Randy, they did. But he just had Gronk. He just threw across the Gronk and the tight ends and the things. But you watched in the Buccaneers, you're like, that's a quarterback right there. That is a quarterback. Like, I would watch Tom Brady, and I know this isn't a sports podcast, but I would watch Tom Brady sometimes before when he was at the Patriots, and their offense was so good that it looked easy. And I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure he made moves that weren't, super easy. But you watch Eli Manning win the Super Bowl against Tom, you're like, well, that was Eli Manning. But with Tom was the Patriots, you're like, well, I don't think that's Tom. But then you watch him with the Buccaneers, you're like, oh, I think it was Tom because of how bad the Patriots have done since then. So yeah, that's where we're at. Tom, life is hard. I just think that if I want to have someone talk about how life is like, I would just like to think that if I had that kind of success, I wouldn't feel like life is, because I feel like the thought of life is hard makes life hard. Like, if I'm digging a hole in the ground for a job and I'm like, this is hard, it's gonna suck. But if I'm a kid who kind of like stole a shovel from his dad's collection of shovels and started digging in the backyard, he's like, this is awesome. No one wants me to dig this hole right now. But you could be doing that job and like, this is horrible. Like, do you remember in school? Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. In school, sometimes you would get asked to go do something for your teacher. I went to a small school. Maybe it didn't happen. They would have you like run an errand, right? And it was like a real errand. Like, you use cardboard and you had to take it out to the garbage. Remember the joy of leaving a classroom to go do this work? Like, I remember that very clearly, like being asked to do something that wasn't educational, wasn't sitting at a desk, wasn't academic, wasn't like this thing that school was, but it was definitely a hard labor job that if you had and did all the day, you'd be like, this sucks. But we were just like, this is awesome, And I think that's what, if you play professional football, you lose. If you do anything professionally, you don't necessarily lose it forever, but it definitely, even as a comedian, there's a point where you can be like, another show, I think the shine of the shiny new thing goes away, but the joy that runs deeper is always there, and it's your job to sort of find it or connect to it in a new way. And that's, luckily, I think, where I've found myself to be most of the time recently, especially when I'm doing live shows, is like, and I think that's the thing that being a parent helps, is because being a parent is hard. And that's why kids should play football, because being a parent is hard. So don't go have kids when you're in high school. Play football. No, because I don't remember football being super hard in high school. I remember it being fun. I remember it is like, yeah, your friends are playing at the pool, but it seems like a pretty, I don't know. You don't have to do it every day of your life, in high school. So there's time to have fun stuff too. And Aaron Rodgers isn't showing up for meetings. So it's not hard for everybody, Tom. But that's Aaron. So we all come back and it's all just sports. No. Being a parent is hard. Like, it's not, and other people have said this, but if you get help, like if you have someone watch your kid a lot, then it gets easy. Like when I leave town, I'm always like, how am I going to leave this kid? He's such a part of my life. But like the second I'm on the plane, I'm just like, I've already fell asleep usually, but like you have so much that you can do with your freedom that I become this person that doesn't have a kid, which sounds bad, but I know I have a kid. I know I'm coming back to a kid. And when I'm here, I'm here all the time. But I become this person that's not as satisfied by normal things, you know? Like if I like tomorrow I have a show in LA, so I get to get in my car and I get to drive to Santa Monica and I get to talk to other adults in a green room. I'm on the Neil Brennan and Friends show at I almost said podcast. Santa Monica West Side Theater. I'm gonna get to do that tomorrow, and I'm gonna have my friend Kate is gonna come watch Jack, and they're gonna play, and I get to go in my car and I get to drive across town to do this show. And before I was a dad, I'd be like, that's kind of far to drive. You know, I think that's the biggest thing. When you're before you're a parent, driving to work is a pain. I would want to live as close to work as possible. This is such a pain to have to drive to work. As a parent, I'm like, maybe I need a little bit more of a drive. You know, like before I was a parent, I would always want to fly into the airport. I was close to, like, I live closer to LAX, land me in LAX. I live close to Burbank, land me in Burbank. You know, wherever I lived, I wanted to live closer. Now I'm like looking at flights being like, well, you know, this one's a little cheaper. Sure. I'll be home an hour and a half later, but it's cheaper to fly into this airport now rather than the other. So, you know, I'm a dad. I got to save money, you know, and maybe I'll try to save even more money by walking a little bit because the Ubers are cheaper the farther away from the airport. So maybe I'll land, walk for 2 hours, then get an Uber, and then come in, like, you know, give myself a good 5 hours to get acclimated to the climate. Really, I'm back down to sea level. It's really, you know, you could get sick if you just are coming from a different part of the you land. So you really got to you can really find ways to stay away from. I think that's one of the most satisfying things in life is when you have a responsibility or even just like socially, like people that want to do something or hang out with you, and you also have something else you want to do, and you go do that thing knowing that they're there, because it's not lonely to be a dad knowing that your kid is there wanting to see you, and you're just trying to get up, you know, to get to go see them and you know, get everything done you need to get done. It's not lonely at all. Or like you have people that want to hang out with you and you're trying to get some work done, it doesn't feel lonely at all because they're going to be there. And I think that's what being a parent is. It's like you always have somebody that needs you, maybe until they're like teenagers or whatever. So whatever you're doing that's not with them feels good because they'll be there. This isn't the podcast that paints me in the best parenting picture. Like, your kids will be there. I love every moment. I'm very present with my child, just one, when I'm there, you know, and I'm when, you know, it's half the week or whatever. Why am I defending myself? But yeah, I think that's the joy of getting your kid to sleep is really what it comes back to, is that you have someone in there who loves you and is going to wake you up early and wants to talk to you, wants to do everything with you and play with you, blah, 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 but you have this time to yourself. And so that's why we can stay up late and do podcasts, because we're like, well, it'll be okay in the morning, you know, it'll be okay. Anyway, I'm Michael Palisak. This has been episode 15 of I Just Got My Kid to Sleep. And I appreciate you listening while you do all the things that I didn't list earlier, because I wanted to do a real podcast and not just be like, you could be washing dishes. You could be looking at dishes. You could be driving a car. You could be walking your dog. You could be playing tennis. Can you play tennis and listen to a podcast? Maybe if you're like practicing, but you would want to talk to the other person. Anyway, that's it. The end.